Good afternoon. Buenos días.
Buenos días.
How lucky am I to be right after lunch? Because when people are satisfied and well fed, that's when they're most susceptible to ideas. Like she said, my name's Cecilia. I'm a first generation college student, first generation US citizen, proud daughter of Salvadorian immigrants, not Tar Heel born, but Tar Heel bred. Recent graduate of UNC and founder of the social justice food truck Good Pupusas. And I think that the entrepreneurship life chose me because I was a global studies major and geography was my thing, and I didn't know anything about business, and all I knew about food was that I ate a lot of it. And here I was starting a food truck business with my family, not as our sole goal, but as a means and to provide scholarships for undocumented students. And this was something that I wanted to do with my education. More than just earn that 4-year degree, I wanted to make an impact in the way I had benefited so much from scholarships. And thankfully, since I wasn't undocumented, since I am a citizen, I am eligible for a lot of these things. And during my journey of starting this food truck, trying to figure everything out as I went, because most of the time I didn't know what I was doing. And I realized in so many ways that I had a lot of privileges. I was used to a sort of deficit narrative about what I didn't have and what I couldn't do, but I started to realize that I had a lot of privileges. Being documented was one of them. Being educated and bilingual were also more privileges I had. And that meant that I could be my own advocate when going to the health department and asking a bunch of questions about how to apply for a food truck permit. But it also meant that I could speak up without fear of what the consequences would be. And I realized how important that was one summer when before I started my food truck, when there was an article coming out in Durham titled, Cracking Down on Illegal Food Vendors. And as I was learning more about what this meant, it meant that the police was getting involved in shutting down food vendors that were, to me, I had to come up with a new vocabulary because I just didn't even like how they were talking about it. To non-traditional food vendors that had been doing things that way for a really long time. Food trucks for me were called loncheras long before I realized the translation was food truck. Loncheras were part of the Latino community in Durham for decades before this big startup and this hipster kind of movement started about all these gourmet foods and things like that, like $10 waffles and lobster rolls from Maine. How did that even get down here? And I was realizing that something felt wrong in my gut. And I couldn't quite find the words and to articulate it well enough yet, but I knew that there was a problem. And so I started speaking out against what I thought was an injustice that was happening, that it wasn't something that the health department was working on to make sure that things were accessible for these non-traditional food vendors, most traditionally Latinx and Spanish-speaking peoples, and not just in what that meant in a culturally competent way. Because just translating to Spanish doesn't mean that everyone can read it and that everyone speaks the same kind of Spanish. And so raising awareness to those issues, even though they weren't exactly the issues I was facing, they were things that I realized along my journey of starting my food truck that I had to look to my left and to my right and behind me to see who didn't have the access I had, who was being left out of this process, and who had more advantages than others to do the same thing we were all trying to do. And I wanted to start this food truck to generate profit. We're now in our 3rd year of offering a scholarship for undocumented students, but I also have an initiative of a second food truck to be our community partnership food truck. So if we're already paying the overhead and we already know how the process is, we want to have this second food truck that we can partner with the community to have culinary entrepreneurs join us and sell their food and see what it's like. Is this something for me? Is their food going to sell with provided by this platform that doesn't take it, so everyone doesn't have to do the same process over and over again and do things the hard way, because I feel like I might have done it a little bit the hard way. But I'm hoping to provide that platform, and that's a way in which I'm implementing a solution to the problems I saw along the way. And I think that that's really the key message I'm trying to convey here, is that we are all change makers, and we can identify the problems, we can come up with solutions, but oftentimes we're probably missing something. Because just as the problems are really complex, the solutions have to be complex. And so through collaboration and taking a step to look to the side and behind, we can figure out what the best thing is. Thank you.